I'm Mark Crivelli with GutterUniversity.com, and in this lesson I'm going to show you how to cut and assemble an outside miter like this. There's a couple different ways to do this. You can do this the way that I'm going to show you, and I know on the East Coast and Midwest they typically use a miter box, which is basically like this but shorter. So you just cut your pieces of gutter flat, insert them into the miter box, screw it together, and then caulk it. But the problem with those is that you have a seam where the miter box meets the piece on both sides, two seams there and a seam in the middle, so that's 3 times as many seams that can leak. So the way I'm going to show you here, you have one seam much less likely to leak. So the way that we go about doing this is we take our gutter template, and if you don't know how to cut one of these, refer back to our video where I show you how to cut one of these. And we're essentially going to cut one piece with tabs on it that allows us to screw the two pieces together. If we didn't do that, it'd be basically impossible to connect them. So the piece that I'm going to cut tabs on is on the left side. So the next piece, if we're going clockwise around the house, this piece will have tabs, the next piece will not have tabs, but it will have tabs on this side. So if we had to do the whole house, we'd go around in that way. So the way that we do this is we measure on the back, always on the back side, and we mark where we know we want this to be. We'll just say that it's there. And we mark with our square down the back at that mark. So this is the side that we're going to be using. So we will mark another mark to the right of that, about 1.5 inches. It's not critical. And I will take my template and line it up so the template meets at my first mark. I'll mark it all the way along. Then I'll move to the next one, do the same thing. Okay, so we wind up with something like that. Now, to cut this out, first thing we do is we cut down just through this top little ripple at the mark for the length that we know that we need this piece to be. Then we go past it to this line, cut all the way down. Bend this out of the way. Cut all the way along this line. Okay, so now we have this. Next step is to cut a little triangle here at the base of this back flap. So we cut down here to the corner there, cut that triangle out. And then we bend this with a pair of hand seamers like this from Malco on the line. Bend that around. Okay, so next step is to cut right here at 90 degrees. And we cut a little triangle out here. And we cut another one here. You'll notice that there's a vertical section here. We want to cut this triangle out so the point meets right at the top of that. And then we're going to be cutting at every curve of the profile. We cut a little notch. One here, and then one here at the top that meets at the base of this vertical section. We cut a little triangle out there. We cut up so that it's vertical there. Then we cut this top tab off completely. Okay, now these tabs are pretty big right now. They'll be too big to caulk because you, first of all, use a lot of it, which is very expensive. And also you have much more likelihood of having a leak if the tabs are too big. So we cut these off a little bit. Okay, then we just bend them around. This one goes to 90 degrees, this one goes to 90 degrees, and the rest of these go like so. Okay, so that's our first piece. The next piece is very simple. We'll will be the reverse. So we're basically going to be joining these two pieces. Take our template, mark it. Again, this would be the mark where we measure this piece. It's much easier to cut these off of the machine, but if you're a homeowner cutting these off the ground because you had a gutter company run these out, just set them up on a pair of sawhorses and you can cut them relatively easily that way. And we mark up from here. And we go ahead and cut this out along the line. On this front face though, we're going to leave a little bit of extra metal here. And that allows us to bend it around to make a nice clean corner. Okay, so as you can see, this piece will now slip behind this back tab, slip up, and comes together nicely. So to assemble this, just take a little 1/4-inch zip screw like this. And we'll first put one through the back tab. Be very careful not to screw your fingers. It's very easy to do. Okay. One thing with these zip screws as well, once you feel it bite, stop. Don't try to strip them out, because if you strip them out, they can fall out. So you want them to not strip. Okay, then we come down to the bottom. This is much easier to assemble on the roof. And then we put 2 more screws in. First one, pop this over the top. First one we put right here in the face, through that tab. Now you can see why we need those tabs. Final screw put through the top. Okay, as you can see on the inside, nice and tight, easy to caulk. This is how we caulk it. Put a nice glob there over the tabs. Follow this tab and then up. Get both these screws too. On the roof, this back side of the gutter will be under the drip edge, so you need to open up the drip edge and make sure you get all this caulked. Then we just smooth it in with our finger. Make sure there's no air bubbles. Make sure the water can pass it. Also make sure to get your finger up underneath this top lip. And that's that for the caulking. Then we come back to the front. And this is why we added that little extra amount of material there. Now we can just snip along here a little bit. And we can bend this around to make a nice clean edge. This also makes the miter stronger. And that is a completed 90-degree outside miter. We'd also hit this with a touch of paint that we pick up when we purchase this color material, just to make it a little cleaner looking. Now I'll show you how to do this up on the roof. As you can see here, I have about a 25-foot piece of gutter with tabs on it here. The back tab is wrapped around the fascia here. So I take the piece that I cut without tabs and I slip it behind that back tab. And it basically comes together. For a small piece like this, for a long piece, you're going to want to have it tacked up and in position, and then you can get it behind in the corner and put a screw through it, hanger it. But here it's very easy. So we put a screw through the back here, just like we did on the ground. Put a screw through the bottom. Once again, don't screw your finger. Easier to do than you think. One through the face. One through the top tab. I'm going to go ahead and caulk this. I'm not going to do that right now though. Now I can come back to this flap that's overhanging now, cut some slits in it, bend it, cut some of this off. See, it never hurts to have extra material here. You can always cut it off at this point. Just bend it around. Just hit it with the paint, touch up where we ding the paint here. That's finished outside 90-degree miter.